Understanding and using strings in Python is really important. And to be able to explain everything thoroughly, I will go step by step. And at the end of this string series, you'll be able to understand everything about strings in Python. So without further ado, let's start. So I'm gonna go step by step, and I will first explain, how to create a string data type. So in our previous videos, we have actually created a string using double quotes or single quotes. It doesn't matter. So we'll do the same thing, here. So let's say, for example, hello world. In this regard, if you want this to be a string, you basically need to use these double quotes. Or you could do the same thing using a single quote as well. So let's say hello world. So this just does the same thing in Python. So you can either use a single quote or double quote. It's up to you. That's cool. So how to declare and initialize a string in Python? So if you are coming from other programming languages like Java or C, you might be familiar of declarations and initializations. But here in Python, we don't have those kind of things. So let's say, in Java, if you want to declare a variable name, which is a string, you have to use this declaration. For example, here I just declared that this is gonna be a string and my variable name is just name. And if you want to initialize that string with a value, you do something like this: string name equals Bob, which is a string as well. But in Python, we don't separate declaration and initialization. We just directly do something like this. Name is, let's say, Bob. And in this regard, we basically did the same thing here, and you couldn't do something like this. For example, just name. You are gonna get an error in this regard. You have to do everything, declaration and initialization, which is the declaration of our variable name, and the value will be done at the same line. That's cool. So here, finish as you started, which is very important. So if you start a string double quotes, you have to finish it with double quotes. And it's same for single quotes as well. For example, if you say, let's say, hello world, you couldn't do something like this, or you couldn't do, let's say, something like this. Okay, if you start with single quotes, you have to start it with single quotes. So here we also have, using single and double quotes together. So which is also very important, because sometimes you might use some quotes in your, text, and to be able to do that, we can use single and double quotes together. What I mean by that, for example, let's say John's daughter is 2 years old. So in this regard, if I want to use single quotes here, I have to start and end my string with double quotes. And if I want to use double quotes in my string, I have to start it with single quotes. Okay, so let's do something like this, and we have to use this syntax. I think that's understandable as well. But sometimes, you might want to use a single quote inside single quotes. And how could you do that? And to be able to do this, I will explain you, how Python actually decides if something is a string. So for example, when I do something like this, let's say hello world, Python is checking for every character. For example, you start with double quotes. Python thinks that, okay, I need another double quote to make it a string. It's checking this character, this one, this one, this one, this one, every character in our string. And when it finds this double quote, it's just making this textual data a string. But what if you want to do something like this? So let's say, hello from Jones. So in this regard, we have a problem, because here, what are we trying to do? We are starting with single quotes, right? And we check this character, this one, every character during this textual data. And here, when Python sees this single quote, it just thinks that, okay, this is my string. So this is my string. But we don't want to use that single quote as the end of our string. So we are basically chasing for a single quote here, right? And when we find this, we actually want to escape from this character, because here the single quote that I want to use. So to be able to do that, to be able to escape from Python, we have something called escape character. And how can we do that? For example, here, let's say we don't want Python to see this character. And to be able to do this, we'll use escape character. So how can we do that? We basically use a backslash here. So, and it's really easy. We just do something like this. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this. So when I use a backslash here, Python just understands this is not the end of the string. This is just the character that will be used in that textual data. Okay, so this is cool. And I will just give some examples on PyCharm. So don't worry about it if you are confused with some of the parts. So let us also understand multi-lines and triple quotes. So if you want to create some multi-lines in your program, you couldn't do this with single or double quotes. And in this regard, you have to use triple quotes. And it's really easy. You can either use triple quotes with double quotes, or you could also do that with single quotes as well. So what I mean by that, for example, here, let us delete these, and I will just do something like this. You could also use 3 single quotes instead of 3 double quotes. All right, so this is cool. You know, when you want to create some poems or something like that, you could go with this one. So everything is all right. Let us do some practice on PyCharm and understand it thoroughly. So here we have understood that, you know, we could use single or double quotes to create our strings. For example, we could do something like this as well. Python will understand both of them as strings. Here, there's no problem. So here, this is also a string, which is an empty string. And here, it's also a string. And this string is a string that contains a space character. Okay, so we could do something like this as well. So this is a string as well. So this one and this one are same. This one and this one are same as well. That's cool. So how to declare and initialize a string? So Python declaration and initialization are done at the same time. So for example, name equals, let's say, Bob. In this regard, we are making both of them. So if you start, for example, let's say message equals hello world. If you start with double quotes, you have to end it with double quotes as well. And it's valid for single quotes as well. So when you do something like this, Python gives you an error, which says missing closing quote. So you are using single quote, but you missed this double quote. So you have to use that. Okay, using single and double quotes together. And it's really easy as well. For example, when you want to use quotes in your string, you could use them together. Another message equals Bob's message. So in this regard, we are able to use this because we start with double quotes, and Python is looking for double quotes, not a single quote. So here it's just checking every character one by one. And until it finds this double quotes, it's not carrying other characters. Okay. But what if I want to do something like this? So let's say another message again, and I will do something like this. Let's say Bob's message, and I will end it with single quotes as well. So here we have a problem because Python is checking for single quotes to create its string. And here it's looking for every character, and we have another single quote. So it just assumes that this is a string. And here, since we are using another single quote, it's just giving us an error. So what we need to do to escape from this character, because we don't want Python to understand as the end of the string. So we could just use a backslash here. So it's checking for every character, and when it just sees this backslash, Python thinks that, okay, I will just ignore the character coming after this character, and I will continue. So here I will just ignore this single quote, and I will continue to check for other characters, and here I found my other single quote, and it's done. Okay, so here multi-lines and triple quotes, which is also very important. When you want to use multi-lines in your string, you could do something like this, and everything you do in these triple quotes will not cause any error. So for example, let us first just print Misty Mountains, and when I get my result, okay, we have a problem here. Okay, let's just fix this one, and I will just run it again. And here I can see far over the Misty Mountains called to Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old. So everything is cool. So for example, when I do something like this, it will apply everything we do in these strings to our output. So there's no problem. For example, when I just have some space here, it will just make it here as well. I think everything makes sense now. So this was a very important one, and this was only the introduction to strings. So we will understand everything one by one. I don't want to confuse you. I don't want you to try to understand everything at once. We'll go step by step, and at the end of this course, you will be able to understand everything. You will be able to use Python with a strong understanding. So that's gonna do it for this video. I will see you in the next one.